Good morning. I wanted to pop on here and talk to you a little bit about your child who is not on grade level. So that rings really true for me because I was the kid who was below grade level in not just reading and math too. And as you can see, it didn't really affect my life because I have been successfully going through life for a long time, reading very well and doing math just fine. So I graduated college, I did all of those things. I have traveled, I have run groups, and I have been teaching for many, many years. I taught in schools online. I run my own business. It really did not hinder me to be below grade level. And I was not just a little below grade level. I was a lot below grade level. But what I'm wanting to share with you today is what that actually did do was it was a thought that created beliefs, not just one, but several beliefs inside of me that I carried within myself. Thoughts of I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I won't be able to, it's too hard for me, I'm incapable, those types of beliefs that I obviously worked through as a child to some level, but also continued to work through my adult life and still have residual layers that I'm working through right now. I mean, everyone's working through something, right? But what I do know is that these beliefs are created by thoughts and feelings, which are just something that are just not true. They're just not true. Nothing is true. Even if I have this belief that I'm the greatest in the world, that's not true either. What is the truth? The truth is what we choose it to be. So if I choose to be the most amazing, outstanding leader in the community of empowering children, that is my truth. So if I choose to not be that, that is my truth too. However, there is a plain belief in my body that I can't do it, it will be a little bit harder to create that. But as I work through it, in the unique ways that I know that I've worked through them, that I will share with you, or can share with you, and have shared with many, many people, it's a lot easier. It's like effortless. Because life is meant to be effortless. Life is meant to be enjoyed, and you are meant to find and feel and know your truth, which is the love of you. And so there are many ways that I've done this and worked through these types of challenges and beliefs. But what I want to bring to your awareness in this video is that our children come into their life with maybe a certain percentage of beliefs already in them, energetically or just within them, because of listening and being in the womb of the parent. And that is no fault of ours. We have all chosen to be in our life path that we have chosen. So there is nothing bad and nothing good. I'm not saying that. I am saying that this is what happens. This has been my experience in the world, working with myself, my child, and other people, children, parents, and even some teachers that I've worked with. So children come into their lives with a lot of clarity, a lot of clear knowing of who they are and their truth of their being in their life. And then as they grow, they develop thoughts about themselves by their experiences. But they may also have some underlying beliefs that they have brought in to their life by being in the womb of their parent. So as they grow through their life, they have experiences and they choose thoughts and beliefs to carry with them. And as they continue to go through their life, these beliefs either become stronger or not. They dissipate and dissolve. And so as a parent, of course, we want our children to carry beliefs about themselves that they are powerful and capable and amazing and great readers and great workers and amazing athletes. And like because I know honestly, I have seen young children that they can absolutely do anything. There's no fear. And when there's a fear or a thought or a belief that they cannot, all of a sudden they can't do that anymore. But I remember they could do it before. So I'll give you an example. So I knew this child who could who could learn any sport. She was very young, 3, 4 years old, and anything anyone taught her, she could do. So her older brothers taught her how to play baseball. She learned how to play baseball. And, as a 4-year-old, but still was able to hit the ball easily, quickly. She was able to, what was the other thing she was able to learn? Oh, she learned how to play golf pretty quickly as a little one, as a little tyke, but she understood the form and hit the ball very easily. She was able to catch balls and throw them very, very well. She learned to swim in one day. Okay, she picked up all kinds of sports and athletic ways of being and learning and playing just because there was no fear and it was fun and okay, I can do this. And because the belief was everyone around her was saying, yeah, you can do this. You got this. Let's go. And so she carried that belief within herself anyway because everything was fun. Let's try it. But the moment that she sat on a bicycle and there was some kind of fear from someone else. Oh, they said, oh, be careful. So I heard someone say that to her. Oh, let me hold on to the bike so you don't fall. She started thinking about that. I saw the look on her face. She was excited to get on the bike. And then it was this, wait, what? Be careful? What do you mean? And she never learned how to ride the bike. And it's interesting because I feel she would have. And it's okay. It hasn't hindered her life in any way. I mean, she's a happy, wonderful, joyful kid. But she never learned how to ride the bike because she had this thing, this belief that she couldn't. So has that belief carried through her life in other ways? Quite possibly, because it is a playing belief that, oh, I have to be careful, or I don't want to fall, right? And so it's interesting where these beliefs start. And it could really be also that she was also already a little bit scared for some other reason that we don't know. So I'm just bringing this to your awareness because when our child goes to school and our children are in the classroom, and every child in a classroom is at a different place in their learning and developmental ways of life, period, no matter what. Nobody is on the same path at the same time. Nobody. Every child develops and learns things at a different pace, in a different way, in a different time. So, I mean, really asking children to learn and grow at the same pace in one single classroom in one single year is really quite unrealistic. But that is the scenario of the school systems right now, or many of the school systems, much of the school system. So when we have a child in the classroom who is not quite reading where some of the children are, or not reading where many of the children are, because there are different levels of reading within the classroom. There are some who are above grade level. That's what they would consider that, reading at a higher level of reading than the grade that they're in. And then many are reading at the grade level that they're in or within that level area. And then there are some who are not. Those are the below grade level students. And so it is unspeaking. I mean, it is unspoken, or it is not said, but the children who are not reading on grade level begin to feel not good enough. I've seen this over and over and over, and I was that kid too. Because there is this thought of, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not reading that same book. Because there is this underlying wave of, energy that in the world that says if you're not keeping up with, if you're not doing as, if you're not performing as well as, this is the beliefs and thoughts that kind of float around there, then you're not doing it right. If you're not doing it right, then you're not good enough. And so I'm not saying this is right or this is wrong. I'm not saying this is good or this is bad. I'm not even saying that this is every single situation with every single person. But I am saying it's out there. And so you may have a child who is not reading on grade level and is really anxious about it, really, really sad about it, really feeling a lot of stress about it. And you as the parent are too, because it is extremely emotional to be going through these feelings of I'm not good enough, I'm not doing it right. How come they can do it and I can't? I must be broken. What's wrong with me? And here's the kicker. So many adults are walking around in the world saying those things. And so many young children, as young as 3 years old, are walking around believing those things about themselves. So take that in for a minute. And it's not even true. It's a belief. A belief is a thought. A thought is something we create. We can create a different one. And that's the beauty of it. We can start and create something else. We can undo that thought and create a new one. Because it's not true. It's just not true. But you're saying, yeah, but my kid's not reading on grade level. Well, that is the parameters that the state is giving you that your child must be able to read by. But if you ask yourself particular questions, is that really true? Is it really true that your child is going to have a terrible life if they can't read at that level? Is it going to be really detrimental? No, it's not. Will your child ever be able to read at that level? Yes. Is your child broken? No. You got to ask yourself these questions, right? Because these are the beliefs that our children will carry with them for the rest of their lives, not even knowing, and creating more circumstances where they feel, because once we have these beliefs, we create these circumstances in our lives to show up. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing it right. I must be broken. What's wrong with me? And I'll tell you, for me, I hated school. And yes, I'm a teacher. I hated school. Hated it. All the way from first grade through 12th grade. College was better because I chose to go to college and I chose my classes and I worked through my classes the way that was best for me. I couldn't do that before. I had to just struggle through. And I had to just, I kept thinking, well, God, there must be something wrong with me because I'm always in the class with the kids who can't do it. And I'm never going to take those high classes. And but I did end up taking other classes just in college, and I did well. So here's the story for me. When I turned 8 years old, I wasn't reading. I shouldn't say that. I wasn't reading according to the teacher's standard of reading in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Now, in kindergarten, I wasn't asked to read, but in first grade, I was. In second grade, I was. And it was, oh no, she's not reading. And I was reading. I was just reading the things that I wanted to read. Because I remember being in the store and reading with my mom. I remember being at restaurants and knowing what things were saying. I remember. But I just wasn't reading according to their standard. And I started to have the belief if there was something wrong with me. Because I remember sitting in the desk in second grade and looking at the board, and the teacher was writing what we were going to do throughout the day, and I couldn't read it. I didn't understand it. I could understand some of it, but most of it I didn't. And I looked at my best friend and I said, what does that say? And she said, I don't know. So guess what? She couldn't read it either. So then we asked the boy who was sitting on the other side of me, what does that say? He said, I don't know. But there were some children who could read it, and they were getting started. They were pulling out their books, and I thought, So I got up and walked over there behind my teacher, who was still writing on the board, and asked, what does that say? And they told us, and we sat down, and we did our work to the best of the ability, because we couldn't read it all. All three of us, all sitting together, the ones who couldn't read what was being done. Now, was there something wrong with me? Was I broken? Well, no, absolutely not. But I started to wonder. I started to have those thoughts of like, wow, what am I going to do if I can't read that? Like, I don't know. I can't ask the teacher. Like, there was just all this fear. And again, fear is just what we created. We create this thing that is not true. And then we believe it. And then we carry our lives and carry ourselves through our lives that way. So, yeah, it was very interesting. So I walked around the world in, first, second grade. I don't know what, I can't read. I don't know. It must be me. There must be something wrong with me. So I went into third grade. And of course, I hated school. I mean, I used to scream and yell. I was the kid who screamed and yelled. I didn't want to go into the classroom. So there was also other things going on that were not being addressed for me. And I am saying this with you because I know there are children out there experiencing this because I have had them in my classrooms time and time again, over and over and over and over. So as a parent, my parents didn't know what to do. So they just dragged me into the classroom. Well, they didn't. They left me with a teacher who dragged me into the classroom. So I already felt, well, there must be something wrong with me. I'm not being heard. Why aren't they listening? Because I didn't know. When my mom would ask me, why don't you want to go to school? I would say, I don't know. And once I got there, I tolerated it, so I looked like I was fine. But then I would look at the board and not know what to do. It was just a very frustrating, anxiety-filled, stressful time. So when I started to really be able to share was when I had a third grade teacher who listened. She asked me questions. She said, and I didn't scream and yell going into her classroom because I felt different going in there. There was a feeling. Going into the first grade and second grade classrooms didn't feel safe to me. And if someone would have asked, maybe we could have figured out why. So in third grade, you go, you meet the teacher. So I met the teacher. And she was sweet and kind. And I was very quiet. And I just kind of felt it around. I still live this way. I feel my environment. And I didn't know that's what I was doing then. But when I go back to that time at 8 years old, I realized that's what I was doing. I was feeling out the environment. And my mom quietly, privately talked with the teacher. And I knew what she was talking about. Me not being able to read and such. So the teacher very, very calmly came over to me and sat down. So I was standing up, she was sitting down, and she said, it's really nice to meet you. And everything's going to be just fine, you'll see. That, just those little words, helped me feel safe. So I went into the classroom and, I started school and I was starting to feel that, oh God, here we go, I can't do this. And the teacher every day would walk around the classroom as we're working up and down the rows. She would stop at my desk and she would watch me and I would feel just crazily anxious. And she would put her hand on my shoulder. She would smile. And then, throughout the year, she would ask me questions. Or throughout the beginning of the year. She did this all year, yes. But the beginning of the year, she asked me questions like, what makes you happy? What do you like? What do you enjoy? What are your favorite things? And she got to know me and brought that into her classroom. Now, I don't know if she did that with everyone else. I have no idea. I don't remember. But I know she did it with me. And that created a situation where I felt, okay, she likes me as a person. So I may not be that bad after all. Okay. So then it started to, right? But this was still getting that approval from someone outside of me. So she's asked me what I like to do. And I said, I like to help people. And I like to be with kids that are younger than me. And I like animals. That's what I told her. And I like to draw. And I still like to do those things. So she couldn't help me with the animal idea. And she let me draw sometimes during class. And the other thing that she gave to me was the opportunity to work in the library. Me, right? So I had to use my skills of reading. Because back then we didn't have electronic computers that did everything for us. So I learned to use a card catalog. And in third grade, at 8 years old, was when I sat down. And I'm not going to say that's when I learned to read. That's when I chose to read. And I opened up a book and I read it from cover to cover. It was probably on, at that point, it's probably like on a first grade reading level, maybe second grade reading level. But I read it, and I read it to the librarian. And then I took it home and I read it to my parents, and I read it to my sister, and I read it to our neighbors, and I read it to my friend. I mean, I read it constantly. It was my favorite book that I checked out over and over and over. And it was because I chose to read, and the book was about animals. It's interesting, isn't it, how things come together. But I started to understand the belief of there's nothing wrong with me. I am good. But as I grew older, I had to continue unraveling that belief and didn't know that this is what I was doing until I was an adult and started working in schools and working with children and seeing how these thoughts and beliefs created these scenarios that just weren't true. Because I worked with many, many children who came in and the parents said, she can't read, he just doesn't know how to do it, they're never going to get there. And of course I would work with them on their beliefs and their thoughts about what they were doing and themselves, and they could read. Because they could read. We can read. We can do it all. It's just our choice. So going back to the reason why I popped on here is an awareness of our beliefs of ourselves, and as parents, our beliefs of ourselves and of our children, and of the teacher and of the circumstance. Our thoughts and beliefs play a huge role. And there are ways to unravel those and make new ones, the beliefs and thoughts. But in this video, I just want to bring awareness to the idea that our thoughts and our beliefs create what happens in our lives and how we present ourselves in our lives. So if you have a child who is struggling in school due to reading below grade level or behavioral circumstances or emotional situations, and they have some needs in those areas, kind of sit back and observe and start asking yourself some questions about, what is my child thinking about himself or herself? What are the thoughts that they're carrying? And what are those beliefs maybe? And just write them down. They don't have to be right or wrong. Just write it all out. And then ask yourself, what are the thoughts and beliefs that I have about my child in these circumstances? And write it all out. And then ask yourself another question. Do I have thoughts and beliefs like these about myself? And then kind of look at the whole scenario and see where the connections are. What are the beliefs and thoughts that I have as a parent about this situation, about the teacher, about schools, about learning, and just see where it all connects. Kind of analyze this a little bit, observe it. You can even talk to your child about it too. That's what I always do. They know. They don't have to see the connections. They know them. They may be so deep into it all that they may need some time to get into a quiet space and find their peace and step out of the anxiety, because the thoughts and the beliefs are creating the anxiety and the stress and the behaviors and the emotions. That's what's happening. So this is why I use meditation and mindfulness, because when we can step away from that and separate from all of that, then we find our truth. We find our real who we are. And that is the peace within us. That is the quiet. Because that quiet, that flow, that peace is what is beating our heart, is what's making the trees grow. It's what's putting the sun up into the sky or holding it there. And right, that is our truth. That is what's real. Everything else is not. However, it creates our lives. All that stuff that is not true creates how we see our life and how we live our life. This flow, this peace is what creates our life. It creates us. It is. It just is. So try that and see where the connections are. And see if you can rewrite some new thoughts and see if you can see things a little differently. So once you write down all of the thoughts and beliefs and you make some connections, you can start asking yourself, gosh, is this really true? Like, am I really broken? No. Is my child, is there something wrong with? No, right? Can my child read? Well, yes, if your child is reading names and colors and your child can read even if they're not reading a lick of a word yet. They can read. There's something playing in there. And it doesn't mean that we may not have some work that we need to go through, because as we go through the work, we grow. It's good. It's just we want to tailor back those beliefs. We want to reframe them. We want to recreate new thoughts and beliefs because they're not even real. We want to know the truth of who we are and carry on from there and live our empowered life. And with our children, doing the same. So I honor you, and I offer you the invitation of doing a little bit of observation and analyzing, and kind of going deep a little bit on this, and just see where it takes you. And then I hope to speak to you so that we can discover the core of these thoughts and beliefs and unravel them and create new ones. And really just, more importantly, find our truth and live from there and create your empowered life, you and your child. It's absolutely possible. And I look forward to meeting you. Yes, you've got this. And I believe in you and your child more than you can even imagine. Because that flow, that thing, that whatever that is that connects to us inside is just wanting to emerge out and through you and your child. And your child knows this, feels it, and you do too. There's just other stuff, thoughts and beliefs and things that are not true that are covering it up right now. So I hope you enjoy this little exercise, and I hope you learn a lot, and I'm sure you will. And I hope that you'll connect with me so that we can discover some new possibilities and new ways, and use the empowered approach to living our lives. Enjoy, and talk to you soon. Bye.